This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
It's this half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks, they roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. And not only that, now you can go out and get ready to drink cocktails. High Noon, Jack Daniels, Crown Royal. And the Pickle Bar, led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none. All at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. We now bring in the best of the best, and that is Neal Coolong. Sir, welcome.
As always, it is my pleasure to be here. I hope you guys are doing well.
Glad you could carve out a little bit of time considering the free agency. This has been...
We're still digging out.
How wild has this been?
It's more... You expect the volume. You expect there to be a lot, but it's more like they seem to come on top of each other, you know? So you get like 3 of them at once. Yeah. And you kind of have to discern that, see what happened, whip out the abacus to do the salary cap math, and put all the information together. By the time that you're maybe halfway through that, another one came up. So they kind of get backloaded, and you have to throw, as much up as you can. And it's an endurance test. It tests your sanity for sure. We only messed up on one, so.
Yeah. So what does Minnesota do now? Is it the J.J. McCarthy show, or do they find a stopgap as a backup?
I would think they're going to give McCarthy every opportunity to be the starter. Now, that's the political way of saying it's his team. I think the Vikings, their front office, their upper management has done as good a job as any in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. Putting themselves into a position to be a championship-level team. But at the same time, the entire thing falls apart if they can't get good quarterback play. And Sam Darnold set that bar pretty high for a quarterback, not a first-year guy, but a first-year starter, first-year player, to come in and do what Darnold did. That's a tall order. That's a lot to ask of somebody. And everything really is going to hinge on that. If they're not able to throw the ball effectively, everything Kevin O'Connell does and seems to stand for as a coach kind of goes away. They sunk a huge amount of capital into their offensive line, and then on top of that, they put a bunch into their front 7 as well, and retained one of the top free agents on the market in the secondary, and signed another corner as well. So they don't have many draft picks. This is what they had to do. You knew that going in, but all the tools are there. It's really just going to come down to, I don't want to call it a gamble, as much a gamble as the 10th overall pick in any draft is going to be. It's really going to come down to McCarthy's ability to sustain drives, to maintain possession, and to get the ball to the playmakers that he's got within that arsenal to beat some pretty tough opponents. It's a really good division. The NFC North got even better by and large, and free agency, it's not even really probably 15-20% still to go yet. Green Bay and Detroit can still make some moves and continue to compete with everybody else.
All right, so what did you think of the Metcalf trade?
I think it's the move they had to make.
I agree.
It's one that you and I have talked about quite a bit. They did not intend last season to go into the year with the receivers that they had. They legitimately thought they were going to be able to get a high-end receiver somewhere. And with Metcalf on the market, I kind of jokingly said when news broke that he requested a trade, I said I'll be upset if the Steelers aren't offering a second round pick and a late round swap in order to get him, and then sign him to a $30 million a year deal. It's what they had to do. I think that's probably on the upper end of what you could expect in a trade like that, but it's what they had to do. They needed to bring in somebody else, and part of that is you can't give 5 targets a game to Van Jefferson anymore. Obviously, that's not going to work. You simply don't know what you're going to get with George Pickens. It has nothing to do with his talent. It's more the maturity level, his ability just to adjust to whatever else is going on around him. He's not very good at that. You can't give a guy like that $50 million guaranteed over even 5 years. You can't give him a $150 million contract. You've got to have somebody that you can rely on, and I think Metcalf is that. Does Metcalf, as far as his game-to-game production, does he merit $30 million a year? Maybe not, but I think they're paying a premium for him to come in and be a captain-level leader, an alpha within the room, both the receiver room and the offensive room, and be a top-flight kind of presence for them. And I think he can be that if he's kind of channeled in the right way. He's got a bit of an emotional streak within him as well, which is good for a football player. He's got to grow into the leadership role as well. I think that's why they want to sign him to the contract and were willing to give up as much capital as they did. It was a move that they absolutely had to make happen, and we'll see what the results will be. But they were not going into this draft with the idea that they're going to find somebody at 21 or lower to be that kind of a guy. Pickens can still play; he'll still get the ball plenty if the Steelers keep him. But they need somebody they can count on for 17 games.
All right, they're going to need somebody to count on for 17 games to throw him the ball. We know Justin Fields has gone to the Jets, so, I mean, with Garrett Cole out, they now have the hardest thrower in New York.
I don't know. Still not sure of that.
But what do the Steelers do? Is it Wilson? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Is it another option? What is it?
Everything that I've heard, and I think the conversation should start with this. Why do they not want Russell Wilson back, or why are we led to believe they don't want Russell Wilson back? There are rumblings that he wasn't really in line with the team, with the direction the team wanted to go. They didn't particularly like him. It's really kind of what it comes down to. Yeah. And I will fully admit that it's got shades of the same stuff you heard in Denver, probably toward the end of his time in Seattle as well. Maybe it's just convenient to say that that's it. Physically speaking, there are questions of his ability. I don't think that's unfair to say. Maybe everything that Russ said about conversations with the team regarding a contract earlier this offseason, maybe it's more on him. Maybe he doesn't want to. I'm not 100% sure, but I would think even if their pursuit of Justin Fields really says probably got this wrong last year, at the very least, you can't avoid that question. Fields started 6 games for you. You understandably started Wilson when he was healthy enough to come back, but you never put Fields back in there. Now you want to sign Fields to a multi-year deal. What happened? He literally didn't play. How did he get better in that time? It's awkward. If the Steelers want to move past that, I get it, but that question is still there. If you don't want Wilson at all, though, it's really questionable. What direction did you have last season, and why is it so different now? Something had to have happened, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, we've heard that Wilson irritated the coaching staff a bit with his decision to kind of, do his own thing within the game, call his own plays. There was, some grumblings from players following the Chiefs' loss in particular that, some players are kind of doing their own thing. Considering the defense couldn't stop water from running uphill in those games, you would have thought maybe they were talking about defensive players, but maybe they were talking about Wilson. I'm not sure, but it just doesn't seem like there's interest in bringing Wilson back. And if that's the case, process of elimination, you only got one guy left. assuming you don't want to start Bison legend Trey Lance or Bison legend Carson Wentz, you're probably going to be signing Aaron Rodgers, which is bizarro world to me. I don't know how we got to this point, but it's weird to suggest that Wilson's age is getting to him, but you're going to go sign Rodgers. The level of the deal, I guess, is probably more important than anything else. But watching him play, and Steve, you and I talked about this 3 years ago when Rodgers was done in Green Bay and the Jets acquired him. I said at that point, watch Rodgers last season in Green Bay. Don't tell me he's still even close to the same player. Physically, he diminished quite a bit. And he looked terrible with the Jets last year. Terrible.
Yes.
I don't know how you get past that, but plain and simple, he was on the same level as the last year of Roethlisberger, the last year of Phillip Rivers, the last year of Matt Ryan, guys that it seems like good for them for collecting one last check, but watching them play, there's nothing you can do offensively with a quarterback that really can't move and can't throw. And I think we saw that pretty often with the Jets. Every now and again, you can kind of, push the sun back in the sky a little bit, make a play or two, but it's not going to be pretty. Not that anything offensively for the Steelers has been over the last couple of years. I think he's the only option. So you're going to prepare for most likely a season of Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh.
Well, but here's the other part. What does it tell you about the position and the lack of depth of it that Aaron Rodgers has a market and Russell Wilson has a market, even though they are past what you would perceive to be their prime?
Yeah, I don't know if another sport continues to value any position that has shown a noticeable diminished skill, diminished ability in a player, the way the NFL does with its quarterbacks. And some of that is simply the market because, $17 million is nothing to joke about. That's a pretty good baseball player. $17 million isn't even half of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the league. So there is something to be said just about the relative value of what they're doing. But the fact that they can still go out there, it goes to show there's a tremendous amount of value that a team places on the idea of experience, knowledge, the ability to just simply read what a team is doing and, put the ball where it's supposed to go, assuming they're able to do that. Peyton Manning, I've said this before, Peyton Manning is probably the worst quarterback to have ever won a Super Bowl. In the season that he was in,
That's right.
Manning was a shell of himself. He was worse than the guys that I mentioned before. But he's smart. He knew what to do, and they were able to be kind of successful offensively because he would try at least to put the ball where it needed to go. But it was obvious that he was at the end of the road. And without the Herculean effort of that defense, Von Miller in particular, they don't win a Super Bowl. Everybody knows that. I don't think that you're necessarily going to get that from Rodgers, but at the same time, you are getting, 17, 18 years of high-level experience, knowledge, leadership, hopefully, to bestow upon a team. You hope that he is doing those kinds of things. And I think when a team looks at the sum of the individual parts and what he brings in, the value of that adds up to, what's generally seen as a pretty high dollar figure for the player. And they're not really getting it for his arm strength anymore. It's his vision, it's his brain, his leadership ability, at the very least, the overall sum of experience that he has. You hope that he's able to live up to that to some degree. I don't know if he is, but I know that Aiden O'Connell is available, I think, anyway.
Yeah,
I don't think you want to sign him to start, be the starting quarterback of your team starting in March.
He's a backup.
So, yeah, some guys are just pretty obvious that at half of Rodgers' age, he doesn't have a quarter of the physical ability. So he's not going to be able to get the job done. Therefore, guys like Rodgers, Wilson, they're going to get those opportunities until they really just kind of get a debilitating injury and can't go anymore. They'll continue to hang around.
And then there was the Myles Garrett saga. I was on a show in Cleveland Thursday, and at that point, because they wanted to talk about mostly Abdul Carter, they brought up Tyler Warren, they brought up Drew Aller, and Jim Knowles, the new defensive coordinator, but primarily it was about Abdul Carter. Of course, the Browns are sitting in the 2 spot. Now, at this point, the 2 hosts are begging Myles Garrett to come back, but there's no but the Browns are like, we're not talking to him. And then 24 hours later, they signed him. What was your thought on that one?
I've been asked this probably 30 times, and I each step of the way, I'll say the same thing then that I'll say the same thing now that I did at the beginning of it. He wants a new contract.
Yeah.
Okay. If they could facilitate a trade to Philadelphia, be the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, I'm sure he would have been happy with that. There's no way that was going to happen. He's not able to go to a team and get the money that he wants. If he was serious, it would have been, I'll take 50% of what I'm getting paid now to get out of here. Right. Never once mentioned that. Just a bunch of flowery rhetoric about how he wants to win. He's rebranding himself more than anything. He wants to be seen as a champion. All these things that, even anyone objective can say Cleveland is nowhere close to that in the next 3 years. Nowhere near that.
They've got Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, now they just traded for Kenny Pickett on top of that. The memes about Garrett with Pickett coming in, it gets even better. He wanted the contract that he got, and frankly, I'd argue that he earned it. That's reasonable for him, where the market is, how much the salary cap has increased, the revenue the league is bringing in, his impact on the game, he's worth that. So I felt almost like I think he went after a swarm of flies with a rocket launcher. I'm not sure that he needed to do all of that. It damaged his reputation. He's probably, for all intents and purposes, he's going to finish his career in Cleveland. Maybe he plays a year elsewhere, chasing a ring. But for all intents and purposes, he's going to always be seen as a Cleveland Brown. He damaged his reputation among his own fan base to do that, which is the most ironic thing because he says he wants to win, right? That's the main thing. For him to just, all of a sudden, well, you know what, we worked it out. All of a sudden now, despite the fact that I haven't played it down, the team has literally made no moves one way or another. Now they're good enough for me to say that they're going to win. Now I'm going to justify the entire 500-word message that I wrote out talking about how I glorify winning, and these are all the things I want to do. None of that matters now that I have this contract because we're going to win in Cleveland. Could have done the same thing, in my opinion. Just it's disingenuous. I felt like it was a gross overplay of everything, trying to rebrand is the word I keep coming back to. And it's funny to me because it's like, why on earth do you even need to do that? What's the point? You don't have any particular reason to make it personal the way you did. You could have said, I want this contract, but really this is a way to cover up the fact that you were prepared to play hardball with the franchise, which, again, I'm fully in support of him doing that. He earned it. He should get it. To do it the way he did it, I felt was probably too much scorched earth. And it's not I don't want to call it the decision, but I feel like the thought process going into it did not accurately weigh the consequences of everything that took place before it. So with that, it has kind of strands of LeBron's decision with a better outcome, of course, for the city of Cleveland. But it didn't need to go to this. It felt like it was just way too much theater for little gain to anybody, and the reputation hit he's going to take is not going to go away anytime soon. Yeah,
I mean, I saw that and went, okay. I mean, that was interesting. The Steelers might be interested in Darius Slay. What are your thoughts on him?
He signed back with the Giants yesterday, but that's a good name to bring up. Because to be honest with you,
Slayton signed with the Giants. Talking about the corner Darius Slay.
Oh, so yes, sorry. See, I'm in crazy mode here. This is everybody.
That's okay.
Slay.
It's okay.
The first thing I think of with Darius Slay is Washington chump walking him back to the wall in the game against Philadelphia, and seeing Slay try to fight back, and Washington getting the penalty for it. I'm curious to see the interactions between those two come training camp. That'll be interesting. Slay is fairly affordable, fairly useful cornerback, a position that I feel the Steelers probably want to prioritize in this draft anyway. So it's not a bad move. Here's the key thing, though, and I think this is important. If you look at the amount of activity the Steelers have had to this point in free agency and who they've brought in, the manner in which they've brought in a trade, Miles Sanders is a guy to look at, by the way. These are players who were cut by their teams, which means if the Steelers sign them, it doesn't affect their comp formula. So they're still in line to get, I think it's 4 picks in compensatory return next year. If they get that, they set up for what's kind of thought to be a better quarterback class. But you and I have spoken about this many times. So we always say the next year is a great quarterback class.
Yeah, right.
We'll see what happens. I remember when Phil Yurkovich was thought to be a first round pick. I don't think he even got an invitation to camp. That stuff happens and we get it. But the point is, Slay was cut. I think they're going to go after Miles Sanders. He was cut by the Panthers. These guys don't affect that comp formula. And if that's the case, the Steelers clearly are not looking to mess with that. So the guys they're bringing in are guys that will not affect their future bounty for losing Dan Moore, whoever else they lost, Justin Fields, Larry Ogunjobi. All of that adds up to their future benefit. So in my mind, a guy like Slay fits that need without them being forced to go draft a rookie who can start right away. That's not necessarily pressure that you want going into a draft, one that you don't have a second-round pick for now. So it makes sense in that sense. I don't think that Slay is thought to be a long-term solution, to put it mildly. I think he's going to be out there to more or less fill the same kind of role Dante Jackson did last year, which Jackson signed like $11.5 million, something like that, over 2 years. Fairly reasonable contract for a starting level cornerback. They didn't want to retain him. They don't really want to spend a bunch of money now, because I think with that too, you save some to roll over onto your cap next season, get those comp picks back. I think they're really looking to rebuild, and the moves they're making right now, early on in free agency, kind of suggest that. And Slay, good enough player. I don't think he's going to embarrass himself or the organization, but you're not looking at a top flight guy either, and they're also not paying for that. So stopgap. They'll draft one anyway, but Slay's the right guy for them to sign for the situation the franchise is in.
My friend, always a pleasure. Back to the grind for you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Neal Coolong back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Brewers Outlet.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now, from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai. Best in new inventory, all, by the way, with really great safety features. Yeah, I can't say enough about that. And not only that, great pre-owned inventory, which they go over each and every vehicle. That way it eases the buying experience. And a terrific service department, whether it happens to be routine, difficult inspections, quick lane, whatever. It's all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. So there you go. All right, so the conference tournaments are kicking into higher gear now. And because they are kicking into higher gear, obviously more activity on a daily basis. The Big Ten tournament will not begin until tomorrow, which we went over already.
I watched Foreman and Wofford last night. Not intentionally. It was one of those things I was flipping around. Yeah. Man, that might be the best basketball game I've seen in the last couple of weeks.
No, the conference championship games are really competitive.
Ooh.
I mean, they're really, really competitive. And I think that's a... I think that's really special to do that. And you got two really good teams. They go head to head, and I think that's great. You know, like that, and they're really good. I remember Penn State played. This is 2 years ago. Penn State played Furman. They were really good. And Furman ended up winning the Southern Conference and getting to the NCAAs that year. Well, that was Penn State was leading in control, had some control, leading in some control, lost control, hung on, won. Okay. So, yeah, that's I mean, you're going to get games like that. I mean, look. Everybody that goes into the championship game has been winning. Well, since they've been winning, they've got momentum. They feel good about themselves. I mean, it's kind of takes, it kind of gives you at least a thought process. That's why you'll see the double bye teams. I can't believe a double bye team lost. The team they're facing probably won 2 games. They feel great. They may be tired, but they feel great. Right? That's why bye teams and double bye teams are the ones to lose. And they're like, look at this upset. I don't think it's much of an upset. The other team is walking in. They're like, all right, let's go play. We've won the last 2 nights. Let's play ball. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't happen, but, what was Pepperdine? 13-22? And I think, you watched the first 10 minutes of Pepperdine and St. Mary's yesterday, and you kind of saw that, where Pepperdine was confident and playing well. And, St. Mary's is really good, but, I mean, you're off a week. It takes a little bit to get back into the flow, and they did eventually, and I think they were up by the teens at halftime. But, you're wondering what, that's the best part about this. That's what gives those teams a shot,
Right. No question. And that's, to me, that's what's cool about conference tournaments. Now, if you are a team, and it didn't affect Penn State 2 years ago. They played 4 games in 4 days. They beat Illinois, then they beat Northwestern, then they beat Indiana. They lost on the final shot of the game. Where they took the final shot, didn't get home from Cam Winter to try and win the Big Ten championship. So you're like, all right, 4 games, 4 days. And then they had to play Thursday. So they didn't get the you would think, again, because it's all about the kids, you would think the teams in the championship games would get the Friday slots. Remember, it's all about the kids. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. But you sit there and you look at this, and it didn't affect Penn State because they went out and they clobbered Texas A&M. Purdue, meanwhile, played that Friday night. What night did Purdue play? It was Friday night. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was Friday night. So they got the extra day off and lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me.
That's one I can't answer.
No, nobody can answer it. Nobody knows. I can't answer it either. Like, golly, I can't answer it.
Nor could Matt Painter, right?
No, again, but, it's part of the lack of athleticism that you have with Purdue for the most part. I mean, that's part of the issue, is the lack of athleticism. Notre Dame is winning over Pitt 25-22. Let's see here. Ding, 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 ding. It looks like Braden Shrewsbury's not playing. I think he's been hurt.
I was going to say I haven't seen a Notre Dame game since that Sunday night game where Micah was not happy with their fans. What was that? That was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was. Let's see. Let's check out the Big 12 here. That's one thing about great having stat broadcasts. I can sit there and just jump into any of these. Cincinnati beat Oklahoma State 87-68. Thomas had 21 points. Reed had 19. Mitchell had 18. Let's see. Let's go split box here. Golly, Oklahoma State only had one player in double figures. Yeah. And the player played 12 minutes and got 12 points. Nobody else in double figures. They got two guys that had T's. Yeesh. Talk about getting blown out.
Man. That was a mid-level team that hasn't been very good lately.
Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
But that was Cincinnati's a 13 seed.
Yeah.
All right? And they beat a 12. And then Colorado, TCU, they're not ready yet. Let's see. Anybody else? Let's see what's going on in the Big Sky Conference. Let's see. Men's games. Ding, 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 ding. Their tournament's in Boise. So they got a game tonight at 7. One of these. So that's Idaho and Montana. I'm going to assume Montana State. Who's the other one? No offense, I can't. They call it Starch Madness. Oh, because it's in Boise. Okay, because of Idaho potatoes. Starch Madness.
It almost got a chuckle.
Kind of scary. Yeah. Starch Madness. Yikes.
All the uniforms are real stiff.
Oh. Yeah. But evidently it's Northern Colorado, which is the 1 seed. They'll play Montana State. Montana will play Idaho. Is this the one where... Okay. Starch Madness. I have to admit, hadn't heard that one before.
Nope.
Starch Madness. Wow. Let's see. Tonight, the West Coast Conference Championship game. All right.
I'm assuming it's Gonzaga St. Mary's again.
Yes, it is Gonzaga St. Mary's from the beautiful Orleans Arena where they've met 5,000 times. Yeah. I mean, no offense. St. Mary's basketball. God, I know they win. I got it. They win. They are brutal to watch. Oh. And I know he's got to play that way. I got it. It's just, and they win with it. It is much, much, much easier to slow a game down than it is to speed one up. Believe it or not, it really is. It's much easier to slow a game down. But golly, they just. I mean, they're 28-4, so it works. So I can't blame Randy Bennett for that, right? But they just. I mean, defensively, they're really good. The rebounding is great. Morauskas is really a terrific rebounder. So is Mitchell Saxon. Just really good players. Okay? Right? Marshall Lone is a good scorer for them. But they're just brutal to watch. Brutal.
I was going to say St. Mary's and San Diego State would not bring a lot of eyeballs.
No. Believe me, St. Mary's and Pepperdine didn't bring a lot either.
No, I gave up after a half.
Yeah, I mean, they just doesn't. Now, will I watch some of that tonight? Yeah, probably. I mean, why not? I mean, probably, but but they just play at a slow pace.
I think the color guy last night was like, yeah, St. Mary's doesn't like to run. You don't say.
Really? And they paid you how much? They paid you how much money? Just asking for a friend. They paid you how much? Come on. Yeah, look, I mean, it works for them. I mean, it works. What is their pace, by the way? Their pace is on here. They're 359th in the country in average tempo. 61 possessions a game. Really? That is brutal. There are only 4-5 teams worse or slower, yet they win. Okay? They win. I mean, give them credit where credit's due. I mean, USC scored 36 points against them. 36. Ay. San Francisco beat them. I mean, San Francisco plays a little more tempo. But here's the key. They're 11th in the nation in defense. Average possession length. Their average possession length is over 20 seconds, which means their average possession length, the shot clock's under 10. It's like, you got to be kidding me. I got to see this. Who's worse? Let me see. Pace. Got to find out who's worse here. You gotta. Who's the 5 below St. Mary's? Virginia, Houston. Oh, Houston's another one. North Texas, Wagner, and Drake. And by the way, little note to Iowa fans. There are a lot of Iowa fans. We ought to hire the Drake coach. Drake's playing great. But believe me, you want to see the game? Slow down. Go ahead. Pick them.
I don't know if you can get any more opposite than Fran.
Oh, okay, yeah. Meanwhile, if you're wondering about Gonzaga, 44th in the nation in pace. They average 9 more possessions a game. And their offense is good. They're 9th in the country, but they're 35th in defense.
I like to watch Ryan Nembhard play point guard. Have since he was at Creighton.
And Nembhard's a good player.
Yeah.
I like him. But that's the contrast in styles tonight. You get Gonzaga. Everybody knows Gonzaga. All right. And St. Mary's. Okay. Everybody, wake up.
Probably
They're
not the best choice for 9 o'clock at night.
No, well, because of Gonzaga, you've got to name. Gonzaga gets great ratings, by the way. When they play, they get really good ratings. They get better ratings than UCLA does in the West Coast.
Let's be honest, they've been better for the most part than UCLA.
That's exactly right. I had to laugh. They had the all Big Ten teams out today. So the coaches nominate players. UCLA gets the double bye. They're fourth. Okay? You know how many players Mick Cronin nominated? 1. This guy sat there and went, wow. They nominated a guy. 1.
Maybe they caught him in that stretch where he wasn't real fond of his team.
Well, that could be any time.
That's true.
Although the last time I talked to Mick, he was really sick. I mean, he really was. He was like, he looked at me finally said, Steve, I'm going to bed. I said, I don't blame you. So, oh well. 1. That was interesting. All right. Time to wrap up the party. We'll do that in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Sunbury Motors.
When car repairs get difficult.
Well, I just don't know.
Me neither.
We get good. Sunbury Motors. More than quality new and used cars, Sunbury Motors specializes in complicated auto repair diagnosis. They can handle intricate repairs and even complete auto body with service open Monday through Friday, 7 till 4. And Sunbury Motors has made simple repairs easy. Maintaining your vehicle is necessary. Finding the time to do it is difficult. Welcome to Sunbury Motors Quick Lane. Just walk in or call ahead. Relax in their remodeled waiting room with Wi-Fi, beverages, and snacks. While Sunbury Motors factory-trained techs take care of your oil change, tire alignments, brakes, and inspections. Quick Lane, 6:30 to 6 Monday through Friday, Saturday 6:30 till 2. Sunbury Motors, Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. We take the out of auto repair.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.